Mississippi, streaming at SuperTalk.fm, rolling into the 5 o'clock hour on this Wednesday, middle of the week, getting a little closer to a big college football weekend. We're going to go to the Farm Bureau phone line to start things off here in the 5 o'clock hour and check in with our friend Olin Buchanan at TexAgs.com. He's joining us on the Farm Bureau phone line. Check out favorites.com and go with the home team, Mississippi Farm Bureau. If you're watching on SuperTalkTV.com, you see Olin. He's got his Hawaiian shirt vest on for us on this Wednesday afternoon. Olin, it's good to see you, man. What's up?
Hey, just looking forward to making my trip to Oxford this weekend. Hope I can get some ribs on Friday in Memphis and maybe stop at Ajax on Saturday.
That sounds like certainly a good start to the weekend. Ole Miss and Texas A&M have played some really fascinating games, especially in Oxford since A&M has joined the league. Back-to-back years in Oxford to start the series with Johnny Manziel coming both times. I think Ole Miss fans would like to forget those, but some really compelling games that have been played.
Well, I think every game has been within a touchdown that A&M has won. Now, there was the 23-3 win. I guess that was in 15 for Ole Miss when Kevin Sumlin had an injured quarterback and Kyle Allen and had him, but he had suspended Kyler Murray,
right?
And so, but didn't tell anybody. So he put Kyle out there until Kyle just couldn't throw it. Remember, he had something like 21 consecutive incompletions and couldn't get the ball 10 yards downfield. And then finally they, took him out and acknowledged that he was hurt. But yeah, I mean, the Johnny Manziel, both Johnny Manziel games. One of them is isn't won until a late A&M interception. One of them's won on the last play field goal in 2013. And then I think A&M's other two wins in 17 and 19 were by a touchdown. So, and both of them had a defensive touchdown that turned the game. So every time we know we're going to Oxford, we're expecting a really close game because it always is. It's always a tug of war.
And the odds makers would have you believe that this one will be as well. I'm so fascinated with the way this season has gone for Texas A&M. Pretty high expectations coming into the year. Whatever against Kent State, the Haynes King injury against Colorado, and you just kind of sneak out of Denver with that win, New Mexico, whatever, and then back-to-back losses to Arkansas and Mississippi State. But then it was like a flip, a switch got flipped, and you had the magic of the win against Alabama at Kyle Field with the packed house and all that went with it. And it kind of feels like it's been a little bit of a machine since then. How do you kind of, in the aggregate, describe this season?
Boy, that's a good question. It's like, I guess, a kid growing up. The Aggies had a lot of injuries in the offensive line, and then you mentioned Haynes King, their starting quarterback, got hurt on the 6th offensive play against Colorado. And Zach Calzada just wasn't ready. I mean, he made some nice plays late to pull that game out, but he wasn't ready, did not play well against Arkansas. In fact, I'd say he played poorly. He played okay against Mississippi State, not great by any means. Defense let them down that game. I think they had a flawed scheme. It's as if Mike Elko's never faced Mike Leach before, and he was dropping guys back 10 yards, and Leach says, okay, I'll take a 5-yard gain all the way down the field. But that they played well. They started running the football in that game. I think they had 166 yards rush. And so there was nothing that told me that they would beat Alabama. But I came away from that game saying, okay, I think they're getting better. And then they beat Alabama, and it wasn't a fluke. They came out and I thought was the better team. They did hit a lull in the third quarter, and Alabama outscored them and took the lead. But A&M just went right back down and scored twice. So, and since then, I think you got that huge infusion of confidence, and the defense is playing well. The running game's been really good. They've had over 200 yards rushing in each of the last 3 games. So, and that's what they need to do to take some of the onus off of Zach Calzada. So, they're just doing the things that this team needs to do to win. They're playing good defense and running the ball well.
So Olin, you mentioned Zach Calzada a couple of times, and I thought he threw the ball so well and made some big-time throws in that game against Alabama. But if you look at his numbers since then, I mean, he's completing about 50% of his passes and throwing for about 200 yards a game. Is that enough if they run the ball and play good defense?
Yeah, if they run the ball and play good defense, you just don't want him to get turnovers. And the game against Auburn last week was the first time he hasn't had at least one interception. That said, now he had a lot of. I counted 5 drops, and I'm not one of those that says, "Hey, if you get your hand on it, it's a drop." I'm talking about actual. You should have caught the ball. You had both hands on it, or it hit you in the chest. So he had 5 drops, and a couple of those could have been really big plays. Uh, but for the most part, he's been the quote game manager. I think he was having a really hard time developing any kind of rapport with Anaya Smith and Jalen Watermeyer, and those are your 2 main guys you got to get the football to. So he's done a much better job just looking for those 2. During this 4-game winning streak.
Visiting with Olin Buchanan from TexAgs for a few more minutes, and the SEC. To me, Olin, the thing that sets the SEC apart from everybody else. I mean, it's not quarterback play, it's not wide receivers, it's defensive linemen, and there have been so many really, really good ones. I haven't seen many that are better than DeMarvin Leal. When you watch him play on a game in, game out basis, do you agree with that?
Oh yeah, I'm still incredulous that he didn't get all conference last year, even second team. And then you see the for what it's worth, you see the mock drafts and he's top 10 guy, and you think, well, what the NFL guys see that the SEC voters didn't. He doesn't, or at least last year didn't get a lot of stats, but I think he only had 2.5 sacks. But if you watch his game, there's a lot of times that he's getting the pressure. He's almost always double teamed, and this year he's broken out a little bit more. Like I said, 5.5 sacks. A lot of times there was a play like last week where he didn't get the sack, but he forced Bo Nix right into Tyree Johnson, who leads A&M with 6 sacks. So and DeMarvin's about 290, 295, but he's a really good athlete with a lot of speed, and so I'm not sure when he gets in the NFL if they won't want to put another 10 pounds on him and have him play as a tackle. But he's agile enough and nimble to play in athletics. So what A&M likes to do a lot of times is if they know it's a pass, they like to move DeMarvin inside and match him up against a guard or even right on the nose, and then they'll bring Tyree Johnson in, just to rush the passer along with Michael Clemens. So they'll move him around, not just on third down, but for the most time you're going to see him over at in front of the offense's right tackle. But he's really good against the run. He creates havoc. I mean, you're right. He's a really good player.
Couple of minutes left. Pull your crystal ball out. I know you got it there in your back pocket, and look into it for late Saturday night, and tell me two different scenarios. If Texas A&M wins, it was because, and if Ole Miss wins, it was because.
Okay. Well, if A&M wins, it's because the Aggies ran the football very effectively and took the big play away from Ole Miss.
Okay.
And if Ole Miss wins, then I would think they protected Matt Corral really well, and they forced some turnovers.
I got to ask you about this before we wrap up, because it's kind of floating out there, and it's like the story that won't completely go away. Is Jimbo going to be in Aggie land forever? I mean, I don't know if you've heard this or not, but there's an opening at LSU, and Scott Woodward knows Jimbo Fisher and might have even hired him somewhere along the way. And it's a story that kind of just keeps popping up, even though Jimbo has said, I'm not going anywhere and I love my ranches. Would you be shocked at this point if it did happen?
Well, nothing in college athletics shocks me. I've been following it too long. to see so many bizarre things that'll happen. But I would be surprised.
Okay.
Like you said, Jimbo has been adamant that he loves the job he has, that he's staying here, loves his ranch, fits well here. His wife loves it here. And he could have gone to LSU before and didn't.
Sure.
So I'm assuming that he's staying